Who will be the new football coach at UConn? Next. Welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop it every week. The rumor mill has been swirling since the departure of UConn football coach Randy Edsall last week. Big names and up-and-comers have been projected to be the new guy. Today we talk to two folks with exceptional insight about UConn football. Desmond Cotter, Hartford Current UConn beat writer and blogger, and sportscaster Scott Gray from WTIC-AM will talk about Edsall's sloppy exit, his legacy, and who they think has the inside track to be the next ball coach at State U. Connor and Gray. Connor said, you know what, stop calling me by my last name. My name is Desmond Cotter. Stop calling me Connor. Well, guess
and
what?
I got together. We're going to start calling you Simp.
Okay, you know what? I'll deal with that. I've been called worse. Simpy.
Or just Simpson works.
You guys look pretty good.
How do you?
So who's buying tonight? Who's buying the rounds? Who's buying dinner?
I got to go to work tonight.
Oh, see, I do too. So
we're working stiff.
The always excuse when it's time to go out after. All right, so listen, Randy Edsall, great legacy here, but he leaves in a very classless manner. Talk about the exit of the old ball coach at UConn.
It's like you mentioned at the top there. It was sloppy. You know, I mean, you're talking about a guy who. Whose reputation was with his players, look a guy in the eye when you talk to him, tell him the truth, be honest, be upfront. And, with that reputation, you would have expected him to handle that situation like that or close to that. Now, these kind of exits are not easy. They're just not. There's no easy way to make it happen. But, given the kind of person that he is and his character, you would have thought that he would have found a better way to leave and tell the team what he was doing.
Now, truth be told, I haven't seen a college football coach yet leave in a classy way when they have a new job. The coach at Notre Dame, a new coach, didn't even go to the bowl game. I give Edsall credit for this. At least he finished the bowl game and didn't just abandon the team at the bowl game.
Well, a lot of the teams, when a school signs a coach from another team, if that coach is scheduled to coach in a bowl game, his new school a lot of times looks at that as giving him an opportunity to recruit for his old school, coaching that school in a bowl game, a nationally televised game. And we don't know exactly what was going on behind the scenes with Randy. There may have been some element of that, some element of rushing the situation by Maryland. So there are some things we can't be certain about. In the case of Brian Kelly, he was told by Notre Dame, we don't want you coaching for Cincinnati. We don't want you recruiting for Cincinnati on national television. You're our coach to recruit for us. Randy actually probably avoided that situation by putting everything off until the day after the Fiesta Bowl. But I think another thing that was problematic was making Jordan Todman stand up in the locker room the night of the Fiesta Bowl and tell his teammates that he wasn't going to be back next year. And Randy didn't do the same thing.
The opening was there for him to do it, at that time. The other thing I think, too, is I think he may have known what his status was before the Fiesta Bowl game. And because he had brought the team to this point, he wanted to coach him in that game. I'm pretty sure if he had talk to Jeff and say, hey, listen, I'm going to go interview at Maryland or I'm going to become the next Maryland coach, Jeff Hathaway would have said, no, you're not going to coach in that game.
That's a very good point.
I think that's what happened. I think he knew all along, what his fate was. He just wanted to coach the team in that game.
That's a great point. The integrity of the game, the process, as Des is saying, the reality is if you do leave for a new job, the old coach, the old AD doesn't want you there anyways for your last dibs. So how do you add some integrity to a process when you have a new job and your coach? How do you do this? Because it's not being done right.
Well, I give Randy credit, like you say, Des. There were a number of scenarios, whether it be from Maryland's side or Jeff Hathaway's side, where he may not have been able to coach that game. Right. And I give him credit for handling it the way he did from the standpoint that it allowed him to coach that game. And I think as bad as this is for UConn football right now, having to start over again with a new coach, I think if Randy doesn't coach that game, that would have been devastating for the program.
I didn't look at it that way, but, you may be right. Maybe obviously it seems like he put some thought into that.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about that, but it's still not the way you want to see. You don't want to see things go that way. But who knows what those kids would have stepped on it if they stepped on that field knowing that he wasn't there. who knows what would have happened. I mean, they played their hearts out and played, as well as they could, but they just went up against a buzzsaw that night. But still, who knows if it would have been somebody else calling the shots that night other than Randy Edsall, what could have happened.
Now, he's off to Maryland, and that surprised some people. It didn't surprise anyone that he's leaving. Every year his name popped up there. I think the Maryland job, people said Maryland. Some see it as a lateral move, if not a step down. Here were his thoughts on why Maryland, Randy Edsall.
This is a dream job for me. This is the dream job. It's not every time in your life that you get to go and have an opportunity to do something that you've really wanted to do once you've entered the career field that you chose.
All right, Maryland. Seems to me, guys, that the UConn job is a better job. Am I wrong? Talk to me.
Well, in some ways, yes. In other ways, no. One of the things that always bothered Randy here at UConn and was primarily the status of the Big East. The fact that it was very difficult to recruit players in the Big East because the Big East really bills itself as a basketball league. It presents itself as a basketball league. The top football recruits in the country want to play football in a football league. And because of the way the Big East presents itself, they view the Big East as a basketball league, and it makes it difficult.
ACC's got a pretty good basketball rep, too.
Well, it has a good basketball rep, but everybody in the ACC plays football. When he says it's a dream job, well, of course, he grew up close to Maryland. He was only 70 miles away over the Pennsylvania border, but it also gives him an opportunity to coach football in a football league, which is something he always wanted to do. And he spoke many times about his desire for the Big East to become an all-football league, or if an entree from another league came along for UConn, he told me once he'd walk right into Jeff Hathaway's office and say, go.
I mean, I think the future, the unstable future of the Big East certainly had something to do with it. He's obviously, for the longest time, he had been a proponent of adding to the league a while ago. And it just never happened. And I think he saw the way things were shaking out now. He was hoping that it would be like a 12-team league or something like that. 10 is what it'll ultimately be, which is what Big East officials decided. But, I know for a fact that, he felt like he wanted the Big East to have more of a football presence than what it has.
More cachet.
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you this, Des. The day that TCU was introduced as a new member of the Big East starting in 2012, didn't you get the impression from some of the things the athletic director at TCU said that he's got to know what the future of the Big East is going to be before he can make that decision to join the league? And I just got the impression with the teams that he talked about, the schools that he talked about, and the schools that he did not talk about, that he has the impression he's going to be playing in a Western division, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Louisville, West Virginia, of a two-division conference that is void of basketball-only schools. I just got that impression from a number of the things he said.
I don't know, but it's possible. I think that's ultimately what's going to happen is you're going to have that split. I think you're going to have to do that because you're going to have to add more teams. 10 isn't going to be enough.
It's got to go to 12
How about
anyway.
this, guys, before we break? How about this? Very simply, Randy Edsall said, I brought this team as far as I can bring them to a BCS Bowl. I simply can't do any better. It's time to move on. Like us, we got to go to the next segment.
Right. Well, do you want us to talk about that in the next segment?
You're going to have to because they're wrapping me up hard now. Man. If I can keep you talking, but they're going to get me in trouble.
You're the boss. You tell us what to do.
Sarah's telling me what to do. You got to wrap you guys up. All right, we come back. All this oxygen in the room. We're going to have more of Connor and Scott Gray. We'll break down the pretenders and the contenders for the new football job at UConn. Don't even